Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be sharing with you my favorite romance books that I've read so far this year. I made this video last year and you guys seemed to really enjoy it, and since I read so many romances in the year, it's hard for me to talk about every single one. So I really loved all of these, and only two of them are from authors who I've read from before. So the first one is Beach Read by Emily Henry. This follows two writers who are living in neighboring beach houses, and they knew each other in college. They were in a lot of the same writing classes, and they were kind of like rivals. I say that even though the rivals aspect of their relationship was really just one way. The girl, January, saw him as her rival. He always seemed to be doing better than her. Like when she got on the New York Times bestseller list, he was also on the list but higher up. And so she's always just had this kind of like resentment towards him. And now they are neighbors at beach houses, and they are both in writing slumps. So they decide to create this challenge where they swap genres. So she normally writes romance and he normally writes literary fiction, and they decide to switch, and she is going to spend the summer writing a hard-hitting literary fiction, and he is going to spend the summer writing a romance with a happily ever after. Part of this challenge is that they take each other on little excursions. So he takes her on research trips and shows her the things that he does when he's researching a book, and currently he's researching a cult. So they go interview all these people from this cult, and then oh, here's a cute guy with a dog outside. I got very distracted, sorry. Okay. He's just standing there. Aw, he's playing fetch with his dog. Okay, sorry. What was I saying? Oh my god, I totally lost my train of thought. Oh, wow, I just see a cute guy and I like lose my mind. Her part of the challenge is that she takes them on little like rom-com dates where they do cute things that you'd see in rom-coms. So like they go to a carnival and just a bunch of like cute things. But this also touched on a lot of very emotional and deep topics, which isn't something that I would have expected going into it. And I think it's actually why I ended up loving the book more than I thought that I would, because based on the cover, this isn't really a book that I would have gravitated towards as much. I don't read a ton of these like lighter, fluffy contemporary romances, but this dealt with a lot of emotional topics. The main character's father just passed away, and at the funeral she found out that her father had been having an affair on her mom, and it kind of like rocks her world. And the beach house that she is staying at was her father's house where he would stay with this woman who he had an affair with. So she's really dealing with not only the grief of losing her father, but of feeling like she never really knew him at all, and trying to come to terms with those things. And those are the aspects of the book that I really connected with. In my vlog where I read this, I compared it to The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. They both have very similar themes in dealing with father issues, grief, trying to forgive, and that was one of my favorite romance books of last year, and this one definitely reminded me of that. So I just really loved this, and I thought that the romance was so cute. This is one of the only books where I liked the epilogue. I normally hate epilogues in romance books. I just don't care. Like, I don't care if the couple gets engaged or married or has kids or buys a house. Like, I don't care. I rarely read epilogues, or like I'll skim it really quickly, but this epilogue I was like excited to read. I was like, oh my god, yes, give me the cheesy cuteness. He's still standing out there. I'm like trying not to get distracted. I should go out there, be like, hey, what's up? So the next book is Learn My Lesson by Katie Robert. This is the second book in her Wicked Villains series that I talk about all the time. So this whole series basically takes Disney villains and gives them a romance. So the first book, Desperate Measures, is Jasmine and Jafar, and I really liked that book. It wasn't like a new favorite, but I really enjoyed it. This one I loved. So this one follows Meg, Hades, and Hercules, and it is a polyamorous romance between the three of them. Meg and Hades are characters that we met in the first book. Hades runs this sex club for the like rich and elite called the Underworld, and Meg is there with him, and they're in a relationship. And in the first book, Meg was like my favorite side character. I was so excited to read more about her because I loved her. And so in this book, at the start, Meg and Hades are already in a relationship, and it's very rocky. They've sort of hit like a rough patch. They've been together for like 10 years, I think, at this point, and they've hit a rough patch in their relationship, and Meg really feels like she's no longer connected to Hades. She feels like he's cutting her off, or like putting up a wall in between them. And then one day he asks her to go to this guy named Hercules and seduce him. So she goes and she does that. And then it turns out that Hades sort of manipulated these events in order to get Hercules to think that Meg is under Hades' control and that he needs to save her. So Hercules ends up trying to like trade his life for Meg's, and he makes a deal with Hades that he will like sell him his soul in exchange for Meg's. But little does Hercules know that Meg is completely with Hades under her own free will. So she's like, you idiot, why did you do that? And I really loved this. Katie Robert has become one of my top favorite romance authors. She's definitely my favorite like smutty romance author. She writes the best sex scenes I've ever read in my life. Nobody does it like she does. Every single book that I've read by her I loved, but this one is definitely my favorite because I loved the dynamic between the three of them. I thought it was a really great polyamorous relationship, and I'm just so excited to read the rest of this series. I actually just recently saw that they are producing audiobooks for the series, which makes me so happy because that is the only reason why I haven't finished the series yet. These days, I rarely read something without the audiobook. So now that they're making audiobooks, I'm gonna be reading these books so fast. I might even do a reading vlog where I reread the first 2 books and then do the rest as well, because I don't think I have videos of me reading these books. I think I just like read them outside of videos. Okay, the next one is from an author who I have recently become obsessed with, and that is Grace Draven. Specifically, my favorite book I've read by her so far is Radiance. I have an entire video of me reading this book, also reading Beach Read. I read Radiance and Beach Read in the same vlog, so I will link that if you want to see my experience reading those books. But basically, Radiance is a fantasy romance about 2 people who have an arranged marriage to each other. They are both kind of spare royalty, and they come from different species. So the main female character, she is human, and she is the niece of the king. And then the male character is the youngest prince of the Kai, which is this species that I don't really know how to describe them like in terms of what they are. They have gray skin, they are nocturnal, they have claws. So they are married off to each other in a political alliance, and at the very start of the book, they make it clear that they are not attracted to each other. She thinks that Kai are ugly and scary and monstrous, and he thinks that humans are just like disgusting. But despite their lack of attraction to each other, they become fast and very good friends. And after their marriage, they move to the kingdom of the Kai, and so she is really adjusting to life with the Kai. It's very different than the life that she has been used to because, like I said, they're nocturnal. So she has to get used to sleeping during the day and being up at night, and she has to get used to the food that they eat and all the different cultural things. And this book was just incredible. I described it kind of as a domestic fantasy because it's really just like them as a couple doing coupley things together. So like eating food together, going on little walks together. You know, it's just very sweet, but it's fantasy, so it's also like interesting, and it has all these political elements to it, and I just loved it so much. I loved the relationship between the 2 of them and how they started out as friends, and even though they weren't physically attracted to one another, they built this like emotional connection that made them more attractive to each other, and I really enjoyed that. And I don't think I read a lot of romances or I don't think I've read any romances that had an aspect like that. I love romances where the relationship isn't built off of a physical attraction, and I really liked how that was done in this book because it made the relationship feel a lot deeper and not just like this surface level, you're hot, I'm hot, let's hook up. So I loved this. I am so excited to read more from Grace Draven. So far I've loved the books that I've read by her, and I don't know if I'm gonna read something that tops Radiance, but we'll see. And then the last book is Guarding Temptation by Talia Hibbert, who is one of my favorite romance authors. I love every book by her that I've read, and this is probably my favorite one. This is about two childhood friends. The guy is the girl's brother's best friend, but they grew up like always around each other. They've always had a really good friendship with each other. Her brother is in the military and he goes overseas and he asks his best friend to look after his sister. And the book starts out when they're in the middle of hooking up. They have a sexual encounter, and immediately afterwards the guy regrets it and he says how big of a mistake it was, and it really, really hurts her feelings, and she just like kind of emotionally shuts down and leaves and doesn't speak to him for months. So she is the writer of a political website, and she recently shared a post about Brexit because it takes place in England, and she is getting a lot of her online harassment, and people are doxing her, posting her address, saying that they're going to come and hurt her. So she no longer feels safe, and she reaches out to this guy because she knows that he can help her. So she ends up going to stay with him because her apartment is no longer safe since her address is out there. And this was so good, so steamy. Again, like this has some of the best sex scenes. Y'all, I needed to take a minute. Like the romance, the chemistry between them was amazing, and I loved the guy. He was such like a sensitive, sweet, caring person, but he was also like, you don't want to mess with him. He protected her. He would like fiercely protected her. And I loved that. There was also a lot of conversation around being a Black woman and having this perception that you're like super strong and you can handle anything. People not feeling like they need to defend you or protect you because of the strong Black woman stereotype, and how like, yeah, she was strong and she did defend and protect herself, but she shouldn't have to all the time. She shouldn't always have to. And Talia Hibbert's just amazing. I love her writing so much. So those were my favorite romance books that I have read so far this year. Definitely let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them, or tell me what has been your favorite romance book that you've read so far this year. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!